Is St. George running out of water? We asked the person who would know. Washington County Water Conservancy District's General Manager, Zach Renstrom, and the answer just might surprise you. There's one stat in this interview that changed how we advise our relocation clients. Wait for it.
We're Nick and Michon, a real estate duo in a top 3% right here in Washington County. Our retirees and relocation clients ask us about water constantly. Today, we're getting facts, supply, growth, and what the homeowners can actually do. Quick story. Recently, we had a buyer ready to walk away after reading a doomsday headline on the internet. One quick call to the district and one number changed everything for that buyer. We'll share that number with you shortly.
Joining us is Zach Renstrom, General Manager of the Washington County Water Conservancy District. Zach oversees long-term planning, supply, conservation, and infrastructure for our county.
Zach, thank you so much for meeting with us here
Good
today.
to be here.
And I'll just dive right into it. A lot of our viewers are so interested to know, and this is the top question that's being asked, is St. George going to run out of water?
So if you have a house and there's water going through that tap, you will not run out of water. As we continue to grow, we're always pushing those limits, but we have a 20-year plan that outlines how we're going to make sure this community has water for 20 years. And that plan assumes that we have a healthy rate of growth. And so for the next 20 years, we have water for growth.
That is awesome. And we have a lot of experts that usually chime in the comments. So I'd like to know from your perspective, from your professional opinion, if that were to happen, what does running out of water actually look like? Is it usage patterns? Is it treatment capacity? What are the signals that would constitute that we are running out of water?
So if we run out of water, what we have to do is stop issuing building permits. And so whenever a home is built here, we have to go to the state of Utah and show that we have a safe, reliable supply of water for that home, or the state won't allow more building permits to get issued, which makes sense. And so, we go through, we do all the analysis, we look at everything, and then we show that to the state, and we outline how we have this reliable supply of water. So what you would see is the early signs of that is essentially we would start warning, in 2 or 3 years, we're going to stop issuing building permits. But right now we have that 20-year plan that says, no, we're good for 20 years.
That's awesome. And we see, we get reports from title companies, and right now building permits are being pulled at a pretty healthy rate.
Yes, they are.
Zach, what are the Washington County's primary sources of water, like surface water, groundwater, reuse, and how have those sources held up over the last 5 to 10 years?
So right now today, we get about 60% of our drinking water from the Virgin River. And so that is water that is, in the river itself. And we take that water out of the river, we store it into Sand Hollow and Quell, and then we treat that water and, put it in the pipes. The other portion comes from wells, where we just essentially drill a hole in specific locations that have good, safe, reliable water, and we pump that water out. And so that's pretty much, we have like a 40-60 split between the two. Our groundwater levels have been very consistent. We monitor those very closely. We don't want to take too much out of the ground without being recharged. The Virgin River, we have lots and lots of fluctuations on that, but that's why we have reservoirs. And so this last year has been one of the driest winters ever recorded, but we had safe, reliable drinking water because we had Sand Hollow and Quells, and we were able to store waters from previous years that were wetter.
And I saw some exciting news that this year, I think this is the end of October, and we're already seeing a snowpack and snowfall events in northern Utah.
Yeah, so far our water year started on October 1st, and October's been a good year so far.
Had a pretty good amount.
One month.
Too. Yeah.
So yeah, we're kind of in a pattern where we're seeing some good storms coming through. One of the things we look at very closely is how much moisture is in the soil. And our moisture soil content is actually pretty high right now. And so we're very excited for that, because as we come into the winter and we start to see snowfall, if we have a good soil moisture content, then that snow will actually melt off and get into the reservoirs.
There's a difference between supply risk and usage risk, and Zach's about to explain why that matters.
Zach, Washington County is growing at a rapid rate. We're seeing a lot of retirees, second homeowners, remote workers. People are moving here from all over the place. And I've always been curious, what sort of What do you use in your field to forecast the future water demand for, say, the next 10 to 20 years?
So we are assuming that the new homes that are being constructed today are really water efficient. And so all our cities now have ordinances that talk about the type of landscaping you can have around the home. So we're assuming that that new home that's going to be built is going to be water efficient. And we base that on acre feet per year. And so right now we're assuming that that home that's being built is going to use 0.59 acre feet per year. Now with that, you can still have very lush landscaping, you can still have grass, you can still have swimming pools and all that. Then the number of homes that are going to be built, we actually rely upon studies from the University of Utah through the Kim C. Gardner Institute, and they come out with projections. And so we always assume a very high rate of growth and water efficient homes. And so we put that data to make sure we have enough water for those homes.
Do you anticipate any scenarios where the building permits may be slowed down or halted altogether?
Not in the next 20 years. The only thing that could possibly affect that is everything we do, we have to go through the NEPA process, the environmental protection. And getting those permits takes years and years and years. So like Chief Toker took us 20 years to get a permit. And so one of our concerns is we have all these projects lined out. We know how fast we can build them. We know how fast we can design them. We know how we're going to pay for them. But there is that wild card at the federal government not issuing the permits fast enough. And so that's the one scenario that is beyond our control, but we do work with our congressional delegation, everything to make sure that doesn't hold us up too much.
That makes sense. And I know you've touched on this a little bit earlier when we were talking about where our water comes from, but all of these forecasts, do they factor in like a dry year, drought year versus a good water year?
So all our models that we're working on assumes that we're going to have a hotter and a drier climate moving forward. And we design things, we're kind of pessimistic when we run these models because we want to kind of assume the worst, but then of course we hope for the best. And so if it's not hotter and drier, then that's okay because we'll have the water, but we can't build infrastructure, we can't build homes, and then all of a sudden it's hotter and drier and run out of water. And so that's why we kind of assume that things are going to be hotter and drier, so we're prepared for it.
So we're good for the next 20 years, even though we're, forecasting for the worst, but hoping for the best to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Zach, so where does the conservation move the needle most in terms of efficiency? Is it outdoor landscaping, indoor fixtures, or is it system level use? What sort of things help the most?
By far, it's outside landscaping. And so 60% of our water here is used on outside landscaping. And so if we could just cut that back just a little bit, we actually save quite a bit of water. Inside the home, leak detections are important. But after lots of studies and everything, we kind of found that inside homes, there's not much more we can do without affecting things. So they've actually done studies where they've removed shower heads and put more efficient water shower heads in there. All that happens is people take longer showers. And so inside the home, we're just saying, you know what, we're good inside, but outside is really what we can do a lot. And so that's what we've been focusing on a lot, especially non-functioning grass. That's grass that only gets touched when someone's mowing it. And so that's where we're really focusing because that's an area we can improve a lot on. It's easy and it's actually cheaper to do than building other projects. And so that's why we have like the grass rebate where we're paying people if they want, it's totally voluntary, but if they want to remove their grass, we will actually give them a rebate for that. And so that's what we're really focusing on.
The number one homeowner habit that changes our water outlook. And spoiler, it's not shorter showers.
That's awesome. I feel like it's so far from a real estate perspective, from everything that we have seen, and we have a lot of clients that relocate here from Vegas, from desert parts of California. I recently caught a YouTube video about Las Vegas water police, which I think is,
yeah, I
think it's necessary, but it's a little bit of a draconian measure where they drive around and they issue tickets for people watering during their own times. And I think people should respect the fact that, you should water during the right times, but when somebody gets involved in enforcing it, I know the very people that wanted it probably don't enjoy it as much. And especially the indoor measures. I think that what we're currently doing in Washington County is probably the best from end user experience. I did notice that too with some of our new construction clients, that when you pull the permit, the impact fees, there's a discount, right? If you do zero scape or no grass, but at the same time, if somebody really wants it and they really must have it, maybe they moved here from Nebraska where everything is lush and green and they really miss that feel and they don't want to feel like they're in a desert and they really must have it. Well, if they're willing to pay a little, it's not even a little extra. If they're not willing to save on their permit of the impact fees, then they can have their grass.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We live in a desert. To make things greener here takes a lot more water than it actually does in Nebraska. And so we've kind of taken more of a financial approach to that. And so that's why we have surcharges. We make people pay higher impact fees and things like that. But if you have a home that's water efficient, then your water rates are actually some of the lowest in the Western United States. And we're glad that we want to provide something that's life-saving and so important to the community as cheap as possible. But if you abuse it, then you will pay.
Right. That's incredible, and we appreciate it. You know, I was going to touch on one more thing too. I've received an email before where if I feel like there's some really smart systems in place. If a leak is detected, Washington County Water Conservancy District, or it comes from a local utility company, usually they will notify you and they'll let you know that, hey, there might be a leak. Like, unless you're filling your pool, it looks like your usage is abnormal and you should take a look at it, which I greatly appreciate, because there's nothing worse than damage to the property that's caused by some landscaping water. We've experienced that on one of our properties, and one of those emails prevented us from spending tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, so one of the things, we're trying to use technology too, and one of the things is when I say we, all the cities, we're moving to what's called an AMI meter. It's a smart meter that reads water use every 15 minutes. And so let's say you have a toilet leak in the middle of the night. That system will actually pick it up before the homeowners wake up. So you'd wake up in the morning and either have a text or an email saying, hey, you have something going on. And it's a smart system that monitors that. So if you're losing 1 gallon every 15 minutes, the system's like, that doesn't make sense. Or if you have like a huge waterscape going on, like valves bust, and that has actually saved quite a bit of water. So just in Washington City alone, that system is saving them almost 1 million gallons of water a day.
Wow.
And it's helping homeowners, because a lot of homeowners have no clue that they even have a leak. And the first time they do is when they get notified.
Well, we have a lot of clients and friends that own second homes here. Mm-hmm. So you could be somewhere else. You know, you could be in northern Utah for all of the summer when it gets hot here. And all of a sudden you're getting an email about your property in St. George that's watering something that it shouldn't be.
Yeah, and a lot of now we're switching to the app, so people can have an app on their phone and they can see almost real time what that meter's doing.
That's incredible. I love that.
If Southern Utah water concerns are no longer an issue for you and you'd like to come visit and explore the area, you're going to want to download our area guide. It's the next best thing to hanging out with us. Our St. George favorites for food, shops, and must-see spots while you're here. Link below.
Zach, I saw an article recently. It was something about, and of course, when the article got reshared, it was a very doomsday-like story about the Water Conservancy District these talks about regulations on pools in the desert. And maybe for a lot of our viewers that are watching this video from somewhere else that are facing these restrictions, is there any talks about pool sizes, or what are people allowed to do currently?
So currently we're just only having a discussion. So several communities in the Western United States have limited the size of swimming pools. And so it's actually happening all over the Western United States. So we're just having that discussion right now. So as a water district, we have no regulatory authority. We can't mandate anything. We can't do anything like that. And so what we do is we start discussions. And so right now there's a discussion going on, mainly with policymakers, AKA elected officials. We're reaching out to the home builders. We're talking to pool installers. And we're just like saying, okay, if something were to happen, what would work well for you guys? Right now, the discussion is basically maybe limiting the size of a pool. You know, the numbers between 1,000 to 700 square feet is kind of been thrown around. And the other thing is having a mechanical cover. Okay. And so if you cover a swimming pool, they hardly use any water, actually. It stops all that evaporation. And so we'll see where it goes. I honestly don't know where that'll end up, but there is that discussion. Nothing is pending right now, just discussion.
So if your dream home in Southern Utah has an Olympic-sized pool, we don't encourage it. However, there's nobody stopping you from doing it right now.
Right now, but it's interesting you say that, and that's what kind of caused this discussion to come up, is some people are building Olympic-sized swimming pools in their backyard of that size.
We've seen it.
And so that uses a lot of water. And so the question is we only have so much water, what do we want to do with that?
Right.
Like one golf course could, I say have a 20-year plan. A new golf course could take a year off that plan instantly. And so that's just kind of the discussion. It's a discussion about how to use water in the desert has been going on for over 100 years plus. If you go look at the old newspaper articles, they were talking about, do cows drink more water than chickens? So should we have more chickens and things like that? And so we'll just continue to have those discussions as we move forward.
Makes total sense. Zach, how are the HOAs evolving? Are there any model communities that are kind of incorporating these water efficiency guidelines into like an entire subdivision?
So we have lots, and that's what we're excited about. Pretty much any new development is following these new guidelines that we've asked them to put in place, and our developers and builders have been amazing. And even like the D.R. Horton project, they originally had some ideas and they met with us and we're like, we live in a desert, can you do a few things? And they incorporate it, and if you go out there, it's a beautiful community. I got to give credit actually to one of the first ones that took this seriously, and it's Kayenta. And Kayenta is a large development with an HOA. And there was a very visionary developer that says, we're going to make this very desert-friendly community. And that was, almost in the 80s, I believe.
I was going to say 1980s. I just recently saw a video about Kayenta where it was with the pioneers of Kayenta, the people that started it with the whole vision. And yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah. And so people are seeing that you can really have beautiful landscaping, green, lush landscaping that's still very water friendly and water smart. And so pretty much if you go anywhere now, that's how it's being done. The older HOAs, we encourage them, of course, to do conversion of that non-functioning grass, and we have those rebates for that. And so we're working with a lot of existing older HOAs to kind of help them through that process. But pretty much anywhere you go, if it's new construction, it's going to be a water smart community.
So if somebody is looking to build a new home in southern Utah and they want to be cautious of conserving water, are there anything in particular they should ask from their builder, anything to know around new construction for somebody that's looking to build a new home here?
So I think the crucial aspect of that is their landscaper. And so, it's all like with all landscaping. If you get a good contractor, they'll do a good job. And so I would encourage them to ask a lot of good questions about it. I would encourage them to come up to our desert garden and actually see really good landscaping that's lush and green and has lots of shade and cooling effect. And so that's what I do. I'd say, hey, I want to talk to the landscaper. I want to know what kind of plants they're going to use. How are they going to run the system? Because a really well-designed and laid out landscape actually is very, very maintenance free, uses very, very little water, but still very cool, so you don't have a heating effect, and quite beautiful. And so that's where I encourage people to ask questions.
A lot of people ask us questions about desert plants, or often I'm showing a house and people are like, hey, what tree is that? And I just recently started using Google searches. So if you have a Google app on your phone, you just take a picture of a tree and it just nails it every time. And I'm glad that you touched on the desert gardens. Michonne and I are big fans, especially with all of the holiday decorations. I feel like there's something going on for Halloween, something going on for Christmas. It's really, maybe for some of our viewers, visiting a botanical garden or a desert-scape place didn't sound to me like the most exciting thing to do.
Right.
But after being there, it's really cool. And for any future homeowner, if you want to know what these plants will look like, because if you go to a nursery and you're trying to landscape a brand new build, you could spend tens of thousands of dollars on plants. And I found that some nurseries, like Star Nursery, is pretty good with, depending on who's working there, on giving you recommendations on specific plants. But if you want to know what does really well here in the native environment, Desert Garden is a great place to visit. It's right next to the Washington County Water Conservancy District, and you could see it all live and well. And they do an amazing job with the upkeep and making that place look pristine. Zach, we've talked about mostly positive and great things that you guys are doing so far, but I know that our viewers would like to know, what is it that keeps you up at night? And what is it that helps you sleep better than maybe 5 years ago?
So the big thing that keeps me up at night is every single day we have to produce millions of gallons of water that is safe to drink. And not at our water treatment plant, we always talk about not one bad drop of water leaves that plant. And so what keeps me up at night is that we have a system that's going that cannot fail. And even a couple of years ago, it was Christmas Eve and we had an event and I had to call people out at 6 o'clock at night on Christmas Eve, and they were there for about 10 hours fixing a problem to make sure that when people woke up on Christmas Day, they had water. And so that's what keeps me up, is just making sure that machine that we have going does not fail, and it cannot fail. And so I think about that a lot. Luckily, I've got great staff that's very dedicated to make sure that happens. But yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that you reference Christmas Eve. Michonne and I do a little bit of property management, manage some of our properties for our clients and some of our own. And I have never in my career, we've done it for a little over 10 years now, never ever had a water event with a major leak or break that didn't take place during holiday.
Yeah.
And that didn't take place at night.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen during the day.
Yeah, and I don't know why, but it's true.
It's like it's Murphy's Law, I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
So are there any future projects, any major future projects that are coming to Washington County, any discussion of future pipelines or anything like that that you would like to share?
Sure. So we actually have several things going on right now. So right now we're under construction. We call it Chief Toker Reservoir. It's up in Tokerville. So that's a new reservoir we're building to make sure we have water for future growth. We have our reuse system that's going to require a lot of pump stations, a lot of pipes, storage reservoirs. And so right now we have plans to build 5 new reservoirs in this community. Almost 100 miles of pipe with lots of pump stations. We're upgrading our treatment systems to make sure our water stays safe and reliable. And so, yeah, just a lot of moving parts. We're looking at spending almost $1 billion within the next 10 years to make sure we keep up with the infrastructure. And the big thing is so like I talked about how we cannot have one bad drop of water. Well, we want to make sure that, in 10 years, we can continue to say that. And so that just requires a lot of infrastructure.
And I was just looking at our growth. In fact, I really enjoyed browsing the Water Conservancy District website from a data gathering perspective. There is a Washington County proper population. Prior to this, we upload a lot of statistical videos to our channel just to share with our viewers how Washington County is growing and changing and evolving. And I really enjoyed how your website has a graph where you could look at the graph of growth and just seeing the population of Washington County change just even over the last 10 years. And I think it's only accelerating from this point on.
Yeah, we call it exponential growth, and you really see that going on here. And it is an amazing place to live. It really is. And people come here and they fall in love with it. That's what happened to me. I moved here over 20 years ago, and I'm grateful I was. And we're just kind of been discovered, that's for sure. Yeah, so a lot of people want to come here.
People like Michonne and I don't help that problem.
There's a tech upgrade coming that could change how peak demand is managed.
Zach, so this is possibly my favorite section of this interview because this is what we see in the comments in a lot of our videos. And we'll post a lot of videos that are not related to the water or growth at all, and somebody will chime in. So we'll just go through a rapid fire of myth busting. So myth or fact? We're one dry summer away from running out of water.
Myth.
Myth or fact? Lawns are banned.
Myth.
Myth or fact? New home construction is getting shut down because of water.
Myth.
Myth or fact? Water bills are about to double overnight.
Myth.
It seems like
that was easy.
Things.
And just so you know, we spent a lot of time, and it's just not us. We have the State Division of Drinking Water. Everything we do is heavily looked at and analyzed. We use engineers, consultants that are professionals in this area. And all those questions that you brought up, we spent a lot of time making sure that they all continue to stay myths.
This is awesome. Well, we'll continue to bring these myths to you, and hopefully they'll continue to stay myths. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to meet with us today.
No, it's been great. Thank you so much.
Super insightful. Thank you. And that one stat we mentioned, per capita outdoor water use, has the largest impact on the Washington County water usage. that is definitely a metric that you should watch. A lot of our clients start their relocation journey remote and they're flying completely blind because they're new to the area. Online info can be limited or flat out wrong. Real experience on the ground can save you from a mistake that can cost you thousands.
But let's define experience. Everybody has an uncle or a friend who's been selling real estate for 30 years. Some folks will do it for less. There's a reason they're willing to take less.
If you're thinking about retiring here, call, text, or email us, and let's find a home and a lifestyle that fits your budget and your dreams.
Huge thanks to Zach Renstrom and the Washington County Water Conservancy District for the transparency. Drop your water questions in the comments below and we'll compile them for a follow-up.